The Queen might seem like a polite and demure lady, but she's definitely someone you don't want to cross. What rock star did seem to oppose knighting, and which members of her own family does she have issues with? In 2003, Rolling Stones frontman Mick Jagger was knighted as Sir Michael Philip Jagger after having been nominated by then Prime Minister Tony Blair. However, the Queen was not present at the knighting ceremony. Instead, she was at the hospital undergoing knee surgery. Moreover, it's been rumored that the Queen may, in fact, have chosen that specific date for her surgery for the express purpose of giving herself an excuse to not be on hand at the ceremony. Apparently, the Queen had numerous reasons to oppose Jagger's nomination. These include Jagger's apparent disinterest in charitable causes, despite his massive personal fortune, and his having lived abroad since the early 1970s. Add that to the fact that the musician had been outspoken on multiple occasions regarding his disdain for the Queen, whom he supposedly referred to as Chief Witch, and the monarchy in general. But according to the Daily Mail, the most likely reason for the Queen's dislike of Jagger was the scandalous nature of Jagger's relationship with her younger sister, Princess Margaret. If you've seen The Crown, you may recall the episode in which Queen Elizabeth hosts Mr. and Mrs. John F. Kennedy for dinner at Buckingham Palace, only to learn afterwards that the First Lady had found her incurious, unintelligent, and unremarkable.
That she found Buckingham Palace second-rate, dilapidated, and sad, like a neglected provincial hotel.
But let's not forget that The Crown is historical fiction. Sure, it's possible that Jackie was unimpressed by the Queen's sense of style. It's also possible that the Queen might have sensed the same or heard it through the grapevine. Certainly, this would present a good reason for Her Majesty to feel annoyed by the American celeb. However, there's no evidence to suggest that that's the way things actually went. That said, it's quite possible the Queen found Jackie Kennedy annoying, but for other reasons. According to author Sarah Bradford's Jackie Kennedy biography, America's Queen, in the days leading up to the dinner, the Queen had been pressured into also extending an invitation to Mrs. Kennedy's sister, Lee Radziwill, despite having had reservations about doing so, partially because of Mrs. Radziwill's divorce status. According to Town & Country, the Queen had a revenge, at least according to Jackie's friend writer Gore Vidal. As that story goes, the Queen made a point of not inviting the two people who Mrs. Kennedy had specifically requested to be included at the dinner, Princess Marina of Greece and Denmark and the Queen's own sister, Princess Margaret. On August 31, 1997, Princess Diana died in a car crash in Paris. In the days that followed, Queen Elizabeth remained at Balmoral Castle with her grandsons and spoke to no members of the media, as many around the world were reacting with understandable shock to Diana's death. The Queen was criticized as a result, her reticence being blamed on years of resentment over the marital discord between Princess Diana and Prince Charles, not to mention the fact that Diana aired personal grievances she had with Charles and the royal family to journalists. However, according to Ingrid Seward, author of the book The Queen and I, the Queen's silence was reflective of her grief over the terrible loss, as opposed to bad blood between her and her former daughter-in-law. However, that does not mean that the Queen did not find herself at times annoyed or at least put off somewhat by Diana. Apparently, the princess's openness about her emotions and how she chose to express them, often to the media, was thought of as most unbecoming by the monarch. Seward also reported that Diana paid regular visits to the Queen, in which she apparently cried nonstop, and in time, the Queen reportedly came to dread the meetings. Queen Elizabeth is the United Kingdom's head of state, but the terms of the UK's constitutional monarchy requires that she remain strictly neutral with regard to all political matters. According to the royal family's official website, the Queen does not vote or stand for election. Nevertheless, The Express reported that in 2003, the Queen was said to have expressed disdain for Russian President Vladimir Putin during his historic visit to the UK. It was Russia's first official state visit to the UK in 125 years. As the story goes, Lord David Blunkett, who was the UK's Home Secretary at the time of Putin's visit, and who has been blind since birth, uses a guide dog. During a 2019 episode of the BBC's Any Questions program, Lord Blunkett recalled how his then guide dog reacted to meeting President Putin by barking loudly, and very loudly at that, according to Blunkett. So loudly, in fact, that Blunkett felt obliged to apologize afterwards to the Queen. And what Blunkett reportedly recalled the Queen's response as, "Dogs have interesting instincts, don't they?" No one would deny the bad blood between Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and her granddaughter-in-law, Meghan Markle. Meghan is of course married to Prince Harry, and she retains the Duchess of Sussex title despite moving to the US and stepping down from her duties as a senior member of the royal family. At the very least, Markle's apparent interest in politics would likely be somewhat vexing for the Queen. The monarch's role requires her to remain neutral on political issues, a requirement that extends to the rest of the royal family as well. As recently as October 20th, 2021, Markle was known to have written directly to US Senate leaders Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, urging them to pass legislation requiring paid leave for working parents, at least during the pandemic. The letter has prompted some royal fans and supporters to call for the Duchess to be stripped of her title. Whether the Queen will ever remove Meghan's title remains to be seen, but it is becoming clear that Queen Elizabeth II has had numerous reasons to be annoyed at the former actor. For instance, Markle has spoken openly about her time within the royal family, and most of her revelations have been negative. For her part, the Queen has proclaimed her sadness over her lack of connection with her great-grandson Archie, and presumably her newborn great-granddaughter Lilibet, according to royal expert Ingrid Seward. There could be any number of reasons why someone might find former US President Donald Trump to be annoying. However, it would appear that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has her own unique reason, and it happens to be personal. During a June 2019 visit with the Queen in connection with the D-Day commemorations, President Trump did permanent damage to one of the Queen's prized possessions, according to the Express. That prized possession was the Buckingham Palace lawn. Apparently, the Sunday Times reported, Trump insisted on flying into Buckingham Palace by helicopter twice in one day. Of course, the palace lawn was not meant to serve as a helicopter landing pad, and accordingly, the helicopter left scorch marks and craters in the grass. According to the Express, the next day, when Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison paid a visit to the Queen brought him into the gardens to show him what Trump had done. A source close to Morrison says the Queen told the Prime Minister, "Come and look at my lawn. It's ruined." Nor was this the first time that the Queen was heard deriding Trump's helicopter usage. 1 year earlier, in the documentary Queen's Green Planet, the Queen was captured on film joking around with Sir David Attenborough that the sound of a noisy aircraft above reminded her of Trump. Obviously, Queen Elizabeth is supposed to remain neutral on political topics. However, it appears that the Queen may have had a difficult time remaining neutral during the 11 years in which the late politician Margaret Thatcher served as British Prime Minister. The Sunday Times once suggested that the Queen was dismayed by many policies of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. However, the Queen's feelings about Thatcher, who served from 1979 until 1990, were reportedly complicated. According to biography, it wasn't just because of their differences in opinion, but also because of personal tensions that arose between the two women during their weekly scheduled meetings to discuss governmental matters. The meetings, which would often begin with Thatcher arriving early and the Queen making her wait, were allegedly rarely productive.
I expect to be here on Tuesday afternoon and possibly even on Thursday afternoon.
According to Thatcher biographer Charles Moore, the Queen made the Prime Minister nervous. Nor did it help that the women did not share the same sense of humor, with the Queen known for her dry wit, and Thatcher apparently not having much of a sense of humor at all. In 2015, the Queen and Mrs. Thatcher, an inconvenient relationship, went so far as to say that the Queen would sometimes mock Thatcher's accent. In July 1986, the second-born son of the Queen, Prince Andrew, married Sarah Ferguson, also known as Fergie, in a lavish Westminster Abbey ceremony. Vanity Fair wrote in 1987, "In the years since her wedding, the rambunctious red-headed Duchess of York has charmed the Queen." Indeed, the Queen and Fergie seem to share a close bond. That bond began to crumble, however, when the Yorks announced their separation in 1992. According to the 2019 documentary, Royals at War, the Queen was not only saddened by the breakup of the marriage, she was also angry at the way the Duchess handled the issue.
Now, it's not a fairy tale, it's real life.
But that was just the beginning. Just a few months later, intimate photographs emerged, suggesting Fergie's romantic involvement with an American businessman. Even worse, the photographs appeared to show the businessman sucking on Fergie's toes. Like other members of the royal family, the Queen was reportedly scandalized by the photographs. However, the Queen was reportedly so furious that she demanded that Fergie leave the royal family compound in Balmoral immediately. Apparently, the Queen's disgust and annoyance with Fergie did not abate until at least 2013. What is unclear is whether their renewed relationship will continue in the wake of Prince Andrew's resignation from the royal family. When Prince Charles married his longtime love, Camilla Parker Bowles, in 2005, one royal who was notably not in attendance at the actual ceremony was Charles' mother, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The official reason was that the marriage went against the tenets of the Church of England. As the Telegraph reported in 2005, the Queen has let it be known that the reason she will not be attending the wedding of Prince of Wales is because she is putting her duties as the head of the Church of England before family feelings. Specifically, the Queen felt that her position as the head of the Church of England precluded her from attending any wedding between two divorcees, whose extramarital affair had contributed to the breakup of both of their marriages. However, a 2018 biography of Prince Charles by Tom Bower, Rebel Prince, The Power and Passion and Defiance of Prince Charles, gave another explanation. Bower suggested that while the Queen's church-related concerns were legitimate, the real issue may have been the Queen's annoyance with Camilla herself, as well as the couple's extramarital antics. As Bower writes, one night after several martinis, the Queen told Charles in no uncertain terms that she could never forgive Camilla for interfering in Charles' marriage, going so far as to call Camilla wicked. All of that being said, the Queen appears to have become more friendly with Camilla in recent years. Boris Yeltsin was the first president of post-Soviet Russia, serving from 1991 until 1999, a mere 8-year span within Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's now near 70 years on the throne. In 1992, just 1 year into his term, Yeltsin paid a visit to London, and while he was there, he apparently got a bit tactile with the Queen, according to formally classified government papers from the 1980s and 1990s. Specifically, on 2 occasions, Yeltsin was observed trying to grab the Queen's arm. On another, he reportedly tried to encircle the Queen's waist. Needless to say, this did not go over well with either the Queen or anyone who witnessed Yeltsin's behavior. The Daily Mail wrote, "The monarch skillfully sidestepped Yeltsin's attentions." In fact, palace officials apparently suggested that, going forward, Russian nationals calling upon the Queen should be advised that she is not to be handled physically. In later years, the Queen could be heard doing impressions of Yeltsin, as well as Margaret Thatcher, according to Vanity Fair. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more list videos about the royal family are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.